We learned yesterday. Sometimes, let's say the inheritance. Oh, we're in Kuf Vav. I'm sorry. Hold on.
At the very top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amrafuna, the top line. Amrafuna, the top of Kuf Vav. Amrafuna Amravani. B'char shemicha. Let's say the first one says to the brothers, he says, "Don't invest in that property. I want you to divide. Don't put money into it and try and improve it. I want you to divide now." Okay. So he says, "What?" Micha. So if he said don't do it, and he said I want you to divide it, his demand that they divide and not improve it is valid, and therefore what he's going to get double when they improve the field or whatever it is, he's going to get double from the improvement. Okay, he's going to have a right to double from the improvement. Amarava mistaber time derivasi. Okay, since they didn't listen, he's going to get double even from the accruement. Amarava mistaber time derivasi says it makes sense what Ravasi said, but when does it make sense? Only by navim or batzum. Let's say it was only the grapes already there. But then they put in the investment to harvest the grapes, or for example, or zasim, or where the trees were laden at the time of the deceased died, the trees were laden with olives, but umasakum, and the orphans paid the money to harvest them. So then he has a right, even though now the harvested grapes or the harvested olives are worth more than they were before they were harvested. He gets 2/3 of the improvement because it's the same stuff. And it's exactly, it's the same object, it's just worth more, but nothing's changed physically about the grape or about the olive. We're not talking about making them into wine or making oil. We're talking about just the olive or the grape itself. Avol derachim, but let's say the other way. He said to them, don't improve. And they not only they harvested and they pressed, okay, they pressed the grapes into wine, okay. So then he says, "Lo." Then he's not going to get double. Why is that? Because they're like any other thief. Who, when a thief steals something and changes it, the thief actually owns it by dint of an action and a change. Okay, so therefore he owns it. So therefore, what he's not going to have rights to the double.
So grapes into wine is considered a change.
Yes, it's a very strong change. They made an action. It's a different wine is different than grapes, and oil is different than olives. So long as the price just went up. But here, like any thief will acquire something by changing it, so they acquire it also by changing it, and he won't get double in the extra. Rav Yosef Amar said no. He said, "Afilu drachim." Doesn't matter, even if they press the grapes or the olive, etc. Okay, why? Said, "What are you talking about? Does that make sense?" He said, "Drachim." What are you talking about? How can you say that that he still has double rights when they change it? It says before it was grapes and now it's wine, or similarly before it was olives and now it's oil. And so how
considered a damage?
Yes, exactly. That's considered. That we're going to see in a minute. That's called damage. But the main point is the main point is it's called making a change. When a thief steals something, he changes it. He owns it. He has to pay back the original object, obviously. He has to back the original what he stole. Like he said here, like he to say, what? What does it mean? They have to pay him the damage to his
grapes.
So wait. Let me explain. So what's the point here? You're right, but here we changed. We made a mistake. You thought that what we were saying was what? That he gets the full double portion from the full change. We said, what do you mean? They own the change. They said, no, you're right. That he doesn't have a right to. They acquired the grapes or the olives respectively changing. But still he has a right to the damage that was done. So let's say, for example, their enterprise backfired and they made wine and the wine is worth less than the original grapes were. They made oil and the oil is worth less than the original grapes. They have to reimburse him for the price. He said to them, don't improve it. You have to pay him back for the price, okay? And that's what Litelu, all we meant to say was what? The Mehezek Anolav, that they have to pay him for the damage to his olives, to his grapes. For example, now if the wine is worth less, they have to pay him. So just like he said that in a different circumstance, which we'll learn about later, Hanami here too, you have to say that that's what Rav Yosef really meant. He meant that even if they change them, they're obligated to give them the price. If the price is less than the original, then they have to reimburse him. They're saying though, they have to pay him what? They have to pay him if it's less than the original price. So now, where was the other case? Where was the different case where he said you have to pay back the damage? He says, "Ahad Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel." It was a case like this. There was a firstborn and a non-firstborn who were left grapes that were on the trees by the father when he died. And then what? And then what happened was the brother, the non-firstborn, had his workers went, and so it's in plural. They went and they harvested the grapes. Zaysim Musaka were the same case, and the non-Bechor had his workers go and harvest the grapes. Bechor noto pishnaim. So we said what we said that we said that Ruka Rachama said that the Bechor gets double in the grapes of the olives. It says, and I feel not only if the price went up, about if they're worth more than they were on the tree, I feel it dracham, even if they even if they squoze the squeezed the grapes. Okay, squozed. I said squozed. Okay, I don't know if you can say that. I don't know if that's a word. Okay, but if he squozed the grapes or he pressed the olives, okay, he says, "Drachom." He said, "What do you mean? How can you say that? What rights does he have? That's a new thing." Mikara in Vehashtachama. It's like they're any other thief. Now it was before they were grapes, and now they're wine. How can he have a rights to what they did? Amar Mai says the Rachama. So Rachama said they're the same thing. What he really meant to say was what? He says what he really meant to say was what? Was litain lo d'mehezek on olive. If the finished product is worth less than the original unprocessed grapes or olives, they have to pay him back the difference. Okay, Amar Abasi, b'chor shenoto chelek kepashim. What happened was they were giving out the fields, and the firstborn, instead of taking his double like he's supposed to be, they said it's okay. He just takes one portion. Okay. If he did it, okay, viter. So now what? He foregoes his rights to take double. But we don't know what we mean. In other words, did he forego his rights to take? Once he took normal in this fields, he foregoes his right to reclaim the double in the fields. But in other possessions of the father, he still has rights to the double. Or no, once in any division, he foregoes his rights to take double. He now loses all rights to double in the entire estate. So the question is, my viter, what do you mean? How did he forego? Rav Papa mishmei the Rav Amar. Rav Papa said in the name of Rav viter bosa sada. No, in that particular field there where they divided, and he said, I'll take one portion. He foregoes, and he can't later reclaim the second portion. But obviously, but in any other possessions of the father, you can still get double. Rav Papi mishmei the Rav Papi, also the name Rav, said no. Vita b'kol chasam kula. Once he foregoes the rights in one place, he foregoes in all the possessions. He can't get double. Now, how is that? Rav Papa mishmei the Rav Amar Vita Osasada. Rav Papa says what he only foregoes his rights in that field. Kosavar ein lo lebechor kodem chaluka, because he holds what that the bechor never had a right to the double portion before it was divided, and therefore what umad achol. So now, as they're dividing it, what comes to his hands? So that's what he forgave. Okay, so he says therefore, but everything else that wasn't divided yet, he didn't give up. See, if you know, he says so. His whole reasoning is what? If the Bechor's rights to the double part only happen at the time of division, just like all the other divisions, then he can only forgive it as he gets it, as it's given to him. So if they divided this section and he forgave, so that he didn't forgive the other parts. But so that's what Rav Papa held. Rav Papi b'shmei the Rav Amar. Rav Papi in the name of Rav said no. Vita b'chana chasim kulim. Once he forgoes the part that's in the division of the field, he forgoes in everything. Why? Because he holds yesh lebechor. Kodem Chaluka, since he says no, the double portion the Bechor already has rights to at the moment that the bequeather is deceased. Umi the Achal Baha, and therefore once he gives up on this, Achal Bakula already gave up on everything because he already has rights to all the double. You hear the difference? Rav Papa holds he only gets rights to each thing, to the double portion as it's divided, so you can only give up one at a time. But Rav Papi holds what? No, he has rights to all of the double portions of the estate the second the father dies, and therefore what? Once he gives up on any part, he gave up on every part. And here's an interesting point: the Hadar of Papi, Rav Papa. This argument, remember, they argued about what Rav was saying. They never heard Rav say what they're quoting him as saying explicitly, but rather they derived it from a case. You understand? They understood from each of them understood differently a pronouncement of Rava. What happened? What was really the history? Here, a Bechor went out with the Pashat. pardon me, a certain Bechor, the father died, and he went out and he sold the whole, let's say the whole possessions, both what belongs to him and what belonged to the other brother. Okay. Also, Yasri b'nei Pashat l'mechol tamrei kucha. So now, let's say it was fields. He sold the fields to a third party. Now, now what? And the Pashat brother, the brother who's not a firstborn, died, and his orphans are going to the field of the person who bought it from the firstborn, and they're eating the fruits. They said, "What do you mean? This is ours. My uncle had no right to sell this." Amilu Krovim. Okay, okay. And they say to them, the relatives of the orphans of the normal brother. Okay, they say to the field, "Lo mistaya zabnisu nechase alamimcha nami mechisu." Oh, pardon me, I didn't finish. Machunu. I'm sorry. So these kids went to eat. Machunu, and the owners of the field hit them. They protected their property. They hit them. Amar lahu krovim. So the relative said, he said, "Lo mistaya the zabninu lenechasayu." It's not enough that you bought what belonged to them. You're also hitting them. What are you doing? You have no rights. Okay. Ati lekami de Rava. So they brought the case in front of Rava. Amar, so Rava said to them, the firstborn who sold the property had no right, okay, to sell it. Okay. And therefore what?
He may have had the right to court to sell his, but he definitely has no right to sell the other.
Right. And therefore what? And therefore the orphans who said that they're going and eating the fruits of the father that was sold, of the field that was sold to other people, had a right to do it. Now, that was the Psak of Rav. Now we're going to see how Rav Papa and Rav Papi both derived different conclusions. Now remember, Rav Papa derived that the Bechor's rights only happen as the division is given. And Rav Papi held that the Bechor has double rights from the moment that the deceased died. He says, so there, Mar, so Rav Papi who learned that the Bechor has rights from the moment that the person dies, and if he gives up on anything, he gives up on everything. No, also klum b'palga. When he understood when Rava said that the person who sold didn't do anything, he means he had only in one part. It says half, but it doesn't mean literally half. It means he didn't have any right to sell the non-firstborn's property, but what he sold of his property, okay, he had a right to sell. Why? Because the double portion. Because the double portion he has a right to sell when he owns from the moment that he died. So he understood that he had no right to sell the normal portion, but he had a right to sell his double portion. That he had a right to sell. That was a good sale. Umar, but no, Rav Papa understood the other way. Savar Vakulu, that none of the sales worked. That even the double portion of the firstborn, he had no right to sell, because until you divide, you get nothing. Everyone agrees that the normal portion of all the brothers only becomes theirs at the time of the division. Where's the argument? What about the double portion? Rav Papa learns Rav Papa learns that Rav Papa learns that he gets his rights only at the time of the division, and therefore what? So he had no right to sell anything because nothing belonged to him. Rav Papi learned that he did have rights to sell the double portion, because he gets that at the moment of the deceased, and that's why. So the same thing over here, because they both understood differently from Rava. Rav Papi understood that the double portion, the first one has rights to for the time that the person is deceased, and only the regular portion only happens at the time of the division. When Rav Papa, who understood that nothing, not the regular portion nor the double portion, becomes the person's domain until the time of the division. So that's why when the firstborn gave up when they divided the field, but not other things, the firstborn only gave up on the field and other things, because he has no rights to the double portion until each division is made. But Rav Papi held that the double portion is his from the time the person died. The second he gave up on any double portion, he gave up on all double portions. So they sent a message from Eretz Yisrael to Babel. Bechor shemochar kodem chaluka. Let's say a bechor who sold things before the brothers divided. Also, Klumi did nothing. Okay, why? Alma ein lo lebechor kodem chaluka. Okay, you see that the firstborn, even on any property, has no rights. Before you divide, nobody owns anything individually. They own everything collectively, and nobody has any rights. Okay. Okay. So what is the halacha? We said the halacha is not that way. Yesh lebechor kodem chaluka. Okay, the firstborn does have rights before there's any division. Uh, uh, he has rights before the division, and therefore, and with, like it's like what Papi said. If they divide a field and he takes only and he lets go of the double portion, okay, then he lets go of the double portion in the entire estate. Razucha, okay, midarishma, Razucha from Mishma, from a city, Polag Betsana de Pepele. When his father died, he divided a basket of peppers, okay, Bahadi together with his brothers, okay, Beshava, and he didn't take his double portion. After Lakami to Ravashi, he came from Ravashi, Amalei, he said, Ho, Vitarta, Mixas. Once you gave up on some of the double portion, Vitarta, Becholanas, and Kulon, you're giving up the double portion on everything. So you see that we indeed hold the halacha that even though the normal portions of the brothers only become theirs as they divide, but the double portion of the firstborn is already his from the time that the deceased passed away. Okay, now we are going to learn now about how a person can. We know what the normal order of succession is in Yehuda. So let's say a father, for some reason, wants to change things. I know of an interesting case actually where it happened. You know, I told you generally we don't encourage people to disown people, but I know a case. It's pretty well known, but I'm just not going to tell who it is. But there was an extremely successful businessman, and he had built quite a large an empire, state and things and properties, and he felt that the person in the family that would wisely continue his enterprise was his grandson and not his son, and he gave the entire running the entire estate to the grandson and skipped over his own son. And the truth was that the whole family was happy because the grandson was the one who had the business acumen of the grandfather, and the son did not. And everyone was thrilled that the grandson took over
the son, including the
I
son.
think so because I don't know how he felt emotionally, but the facts are they all benefited tremendously financially. Not only did the grandson maintain the empire, he increased it manyfold. So everybody was happy. But okay, their case. What do you do when you see that the grandkid is better at business than or outstrips the son? Okay, but anyway, there are times when a person might feel that they want to, and I thought there's other reasons why we do it. Remember, you want to protect people. Sometimes we want to protect the wife. Sometimes we want to protect the kids. So we have ways you can always give away your property. A person can always give away their property while they're alive. They're going to say, "I'm giving this." You start to distribute the estate. The person distributes his estate while he's alive, so he avoids any. There's no issues. Okay,
he sells it before he dies.
Yeah, or he gives it away. He gives it away. Or he can give the girls things while he's alive. That's called Manas Chaim. He can give his wife things while he's alive. There are always and Jewish men always did do this. Jewish men always protected the women. We know that. What do you think? They left their wives stuck. What if the kid's a bum? The son's a bum. He's going to leave his wife in the hands of the son or his daughters. They don't do it. You're saying, or they do something else, or they what's the word? They put the estate into the debt
trust.
That's another thing. Or they put the estate into the debt of the girl, of the daughter, to make sure the boys will give her what he wants them to give her. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. But Jewish men always protect their women. Don't make a mistake. Yes, I explained this on Shabbos. It's a mistake. It's true that we have a financial patriarchy. There's reasons why, because women are supposed to be free of these things. They're supposed to be left alone to nurture and to do beautiful things, etc. I tell you, even though women may make more money than anybody else, but they can't. It can't be their responsibility. Your wife may be 10 times smarter than you. It's not her job to make the money. It's your job. She wants to make money. It's fine, but the man it's the man's responsibility to support his wife. That's the fact. She wants to work. It's great. God bless her. Let her. It's fine. It's fine. But it can never be her responsibility. It has to be his responsibility. So now, that's your job as a man. You gotta take care of him. So now we're going to talk about ways to, so to speak, that people can change the balance of what's going to happen to people after they die. Ha'omer ish ploni okay, B'ni Bechor lo yitol pishnayim. A guy says, he says, Mr. X, who's my firstborn son, I don't want him to get double.
He wants to change halacha.
Yeah, he shall not get double. Each ploni b'ni, such and such person who's my son, not a firstborn, lo yirash, he will not inherit. He's not going to inherit with the brothers. Lo amar klum, he said nothing. Okay, why? Shehisna mashakasu Torah, because he's making conditions on God's Torah. God said this is the way that inheritance works, and he can't come in and say that they're going to inherit differently. And when he's talking the language of inheritance, you can't fool around. You can't change the laws of inheritance. Okay, hamachalik nechasav alpiv. Okay, but if a person is dividing, he's giving away gifts before he dies. Okay, and he doesn't give away equally. And he gives more to one, less to the other. And he did not give double to the firstborn. The Baruch Kayamim, it works. He wants to give away his property. He can give it away. He can do what he wants. Amar Mishum Yerusha, but if he says not instead of a language of giving a gift, he says language of, like I told you, of inheritance. He said nothing. It makes you can't change the laws of inheritance. You want to give a gift, give a gift. But you can't change the laws of inheritance. But if let's say he wrote or he had them write it down. Whether in the beginning or the middle of the end, Mishumatana, he used the language of a gift. As long as the word gift appears someplace, then what he said, works. All right, now we have a problem. We have a famous argument about masna amashakasa b'Torah. Okay, when it comes to money. By the way, I said, well, I should have said the laws of inheritance don't belong in choshev mishpat. They are. They shouldn't be. I meant to say they shouldn't be there.
That's how it's.
Yeah, it's my mistake. They shouldn't be there. They shouldn't really be there. But let's say our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? The Rabbi Yehuda, because of the Mishnah, because and the halacha follows it. Machlokes Rabbi Yehuda or Meir. The halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. We got a problem. How can our Mishnah be against Rabbi Yehuda? Omar did Rabbi Yehuda say what? B'davar mama to not kayam. If a person makes a condition, even in a Torah law, but it's about money where people can do what they want, everybody can agree. Then what he said is true. It works. The Tanya we learned. From the Torah, man has to provide his wife with what? With food, clothing, and marital relations. A guy says instead he says, he says to the woman, I'm going to marry you. Almanas on condition that you have no rights vis-a-vis me for she'er. You have no rights to food, to clothing, or honor. You have no rights to marital relations. So the first opinion is what? She's married, utno batel, and what? But his conditions on the monetary things his conditions are nullified. Divrei Meir. The Meir says you can't make conditions. The Torah said you have to give her food, clothing, and relations. He said you're married, so he's married, and he still has to provide those things. His condition is nullified. You don't make conditions on God's Torah. He's married, and the condition is nullified. He owes her everything. That was Rabbi Meir's opinion. Now that fits with our Mishnah. But the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda against Rabbi Meir. And Rabbi Yehuda says no. He said, B'davar shel mamon. He says, at least in the two parts of those three obligations, two of them are monetary. One is food and clothing are monetary. So at least in the monetary ones, Tanal Kayam, there the conditions work. And he's married. He has to live with her.
He has Tashma, she's still going to
have. But he doesn't have to, you don't have to give her food or clothing. He says, so now, so you see,
Oh, no, it's considered the Var Moment or not? No.
No, it's no. That's a mitzvah. That's what I told you. That's what. So he said, but Rabbi Yehuda said, but he doesn't owe her the food or clothing. So you see, how can our Mishnah, which says what, that he made a condition on Yerusha, and it's nothing? What do you mean? Yerusha's money, so it should work. So it must be our Mishnah is against Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara. It says Afilu Rabbi Yehuda. I can even say to Rabbi Yehuda. Awesome. When did Rabbi Yehuda say when you make a condition like by marriage, Yada v'kol machla? Remember, it's still a contract between him and the woman. So she heard it, and she accepted it. It's her food and clothing. It's her money. That's what we say. Since money is between me and you, or between one person and another, so you made a condition that they both agree. They agree. What does God care? You say so. It's okay. There it works. He says. But here lo kol machal. Here, there's no benefit. I want to explain what it is. Why does the woman accept to lose the money? Because she's still going to have the benefit of cohabitation, of living. She gets benefit. But here, the son, he gets no benefit by the father saying you're not getting the money or you're not getting what you would have gotten. And so he didn't say anything. He shut up because he doesn't want to disturb the father. But he wanted his respect, but he didn't agree to it. So therefore, what? Even our Mishnah can even be Rabbi Yehuda. And the whole reason why Rabbi Yehuda, why you can make monetary conditions of what the Torah said, because two people can agree, okay? But over here, the two people are not agreeing. He agrees in theory. It could also apply here, but it doesn't apply. I'm Rabbi Yosef. But let's say a man said, a person says, each ploni b'ni b'chori. He says, this guy is my firstborn. Now, you have to be careful. Remember, there's a difference in the firstborn for opinion of Ben and the firstborn for inheritance. Firstborn for opinion of Ben is the firstborn of the woman. Of the woman. The firstborn for Yerusha is the firstborn of the man. It's his firstborn. Now, his firstborn. So he says, each ploni b'ni b'chori. He says, this person is my firstborn. So he said, the halacha is, as long as we don't know otherwise, so that one we're going to give him without further knowledge, we're going to give him double. Each ploni b'chor, but if he said this person is a b'chor, he didn't say my b'chor, then the kid in the absence doesn't get double. Why? Then maybe you're saying he's a firstborn. He meant the firstborn of the mother. This is a kid that should have. This kid needs opinion ben, but he's not saying that he should get double. So if he said he's my b'chor, then we give him the double. Okay, if he says he's a b'chor, we don't know. We don't know if he should get double. It could be he's just saying he should get opinion ben. How would that to the comment of Rabbi Rachana? A certain guy came in front of Rabbi Rachana, and he has another witness with him. And he says, Amar Le, he says, Musakani b'zeshu b'chor. I know about a third party that he's the firstborn. Amar Le mino yadat. So he said, how do you know? He says, he called him my foolish firstborn. My dumb firstborn, my foolish firstborn.
Or from the word sachal.
Yeah, like shota, like an idiot.
Right.
Yeah, but sachal, doesn't have to mean dumb. Sachal can also mean
gullible.
No, that's
Fool.
also true. No, it can mean deficient. Like here, what's hadash shota? Hadash shota, we call it. Is it a foolish hadash or it's a hadash? It's missing. It's not properly. It's not the proper hadash. It's missing the parts that make it a good hadash. So like hadash shota, he's a deficient. Okay, so Gemara says what? Because what he said is he's a deficient b'chor. Really, what he says? Gemara says 1 second. Why did so Rabbi Bachana said? Listen, he said, how do you know? Well, he said that he's the firstborn. Maybe he only meant the firstborn of the mother. The kol brucha the ima nami brucha sichla. They also called it what? The firstborn of the mother. They called it firstborn, second rate, second level, second tier firstborn. You understand? He's a deficient firstborn. No, he's a firstborn vis-a-vis what? Vis-a-vis Pidyon Ben, but he's not a firstborn for inheritance. So you can't say. Who doesn't know? When you put a language like that, maybe it means he's a second tier firstborn. He's a Pidyon Ben firstborn, not a.
Who if he wants to assert himself as a firstborn, he can't say, "Well, I had the Pidyon Ben. I must be first."
Prove nothing. Prove nothing. A friend of mine, there was a tremendous. I met two rabbis from Chachmei Lublin. Rabbi Shapiro made this stuff yomi. So he had Chachmei Lublin. They were very outstanding. He was an outstanding person. Obviously, doesn't need my approval. And he was very. I tell you two things. One, he was very mocky that all students should be able to speak. They should be able to know how to talk. That was one. But they were incredible people. So one of his students was Rabbi. I remember from Montreal, Hirschberg. He's a genius. So a friend of mine goes back, and he has he has to make an opinion about for his son. And Hirschberg quizzed him 20 questions, the mother, this, all kinds of things, So he said, look, Rabbi Hirschberg, I may not be a big time of Chacham. He said, but I'm a religious person. I study Torah. He says, I'm a Yeshiva man. He says, why'd you grill me so much? He says, I'll tell you. He says, I had a case, and after that, I don't trust anybody. He said, what happened? He says, I came to a Pidyon Ben, and I see that the mother is a Bas Levi. There's no Pidyon Ben. He said, so I said to the woman, you're a Bas Levi, there's no Pidyon Ben. She said, Rabbi, I don't know. There was no problem with my first son. So he said, after that, he doesn't trust anybody. Who got to the comedy of Chanina? a certain guy came in front of Rabbi Chanina. And he said to him, a person said, I'm sure this guy is a firstborn. He says, my doctor. He says, how do you know? So he says, the chi haba atu legabi avua, because when they used to come, when anybody who had an eye ailment used to come to the father, Amalu, he would tell them, Zilagabe Shakas b'nei, go to my son whose name is Shakas. Okay, the Buchu Umasi Ruke. Since he's a firstborn, they had a tradition that firstborn, the spit of a firstborn, can help certain eye ailments. He says, go to my son who has a firstborn. Okay, I said, 1 second. He said, what do you mean? That doesn't prove? How do you know he's a firstborn for inheritance? Then maybe he was the firstborn of the mother. So the Gemara says no. Or the Gemara says, how do you know? The Gemara says no. Gemiri, because we have a tradition. It's only the saliva of a father's firstborn that is effective for eye ailments, and not the firstborn of the mother. So it was really right. No, it would have been correct to accept that as evidence that he was really truly a firstborn for inheritance. Amar Rabbi says, Tumtum, we have different types of people that we don't know what their actual sex is. So some people are born, let's say, with a male organ and a female organ. That's clear. That's called an androgynous. We have an androgynous. But we have a thing called a tumtum, where the whole area is covered up. We have no idea. It could be male, could be female, could be androgynous. We have no idea. We can't see it. So he says, what happened was tumtum shenikra. What happened was the tumtum who had, let's say, who was covered over, all of a sudden the skin was ripped open, and then they saw clearly that a male organ, that he's completely male. He says, Eino notum mishnayim. Nevertheless, even though he was the firstborn, he doesn't get double. Why? Because this is the word. Remember, I told you verbs of being are darshan. So when the Torah gave the rules of firstborns, and the firstborn of the hated one, he says, and the firstborn was to whom? To the hated wife. He used the word v'haya, and it was, okay? That word extra, v'haya, and it was ben mishas havoy. It has to be a son from the moment he came into being. So even though that this guy really is a firstborn, and he really is male, but he wasn't visibly male from the moment he was born, he doesn't get the rights of a firstborn, of a double portion. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he said, what? When a tumtum was ripped open, okay, af ener nidon keben soramor. Similarly, even though we find him out to be a boy, he does not get the punishment of a ben soramor, a person who's gluttonous, etc., and he gets the rules that of getting killed. Damar Kro, because the pasuk said ki yihya, the same thing when there will be the ish ben soramor, extra word, and they'll be, and what? Ad shi'eh ben mishas haron. He has to be a boy from the time he came into being. And since we only saw that he was a boy later, the rules of Pidyon of Ben Saramora don't apply to him. We'll call that a daf. We're gonna have a wonderful day. Hey,
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah.
Hope to see you tomorrow.
Oh, man.
Ready to move to a bigger facility? Okay, no one saw a Gemara with the Bromberg label on it, right?
No.
Okay.
When does the coffee mess start again?
Was that Gemara Bechor or
who does that?
Pesci?
Yeah.
He said he'd be back by Thursday.
Actually, moved
His
back
wife was
Thursday.
getting shiva.
When I talked to him, that's why he said he thinks he'll be here about
Thursday.
So was your Gemara a Bechor or a Pasher?
I don't know. I left it here purposely.
Bob, I go with buddy.
Okay,
I saw your Gemara in the base medrash.
okay, maybe it's still there.
We had a case, I used to learn by Reb Goldberg. So they had a famous kollel called Shevet HaMechokim. One of the,
By who?
by Reb Zalman Nechemia Goldberg, the son-in-law. He was I called Aviai Dayanim in Eretz Yisrael. So that kollel was a very prestigious kollel. Everybody was trying to buy him. Eventually, they ran out of money. They were bought out by Eric Fisher. So when we got there, not long after we were there, so a guy comes running in. That place was close to Shai Tzedek Hospital. We were just at the hospital. So in Israel, a lot of people they'll have ceremonies in the hospital. For some reason, the woman's in the hospital with the baby. They'll have a